Welcome to an episode of First Use, and in today's episode I'm going to go through the Fremantle Dockers in their last quarter against Collingwood at the MCG. What an outstanding game it was. I'm going to run you through really pivotal moments that happened in that last quarter, and my analysis of that last quarter was all Dockers players were on the same page. And when I go through the clips and I show you, you understand why they were brave. They went through the corridor, but every player was on the same page. They worked for each other. They had plenty of balance. They were pointing, organisation, but the ability to win the ball, but also the ability to stop Collingwood when they were trying to win the game when there was 1 point the difference. Even in areas where it was a draw or when they were behind, they still continued to play their brand of footy. So let's get in the clips and I'll show you how they're able to execute a famous win at the MCG against Collingwood. So this is Matthew Johnson. So there's a 50-50 ball to be won. It was pointed out that 4.5 minutes into the last quarter, Fremantle had only touched the ball twice. So for them to actually come back, not only against Collingwood, top of the ladder, the momentum, the crowd, all that sort of stuff, not only to come back, but also the way they were able to do it. And in these clips, I'm going to show you. So there's a 50-50 contest here. And what I love by Johnson is the ability to come back in the middle. Notice with all their point kick-ins, bar their last one where they went wide, which they end up coming into the middle anyway, all their kicks went down into the corridor. So it's a 50-50 contest to win. And I love how not only does he win the contest, but he comes back in the middle. Really important. They did that throughout the last quarter. They just took the game on. And as I mentioned in the opening part of this episode about the ability to be on the same page, they just knew what their focus was as a team. Own the corridor, go through the corridor, and give themselves the opportunity to win. They came through. Josh Tracy up into the midfield, and I'll show some clips where he was outstanding in his second and third efforts, and in particular that last mark he took right near the dying seconds of the game. But just to come through, thought he was unbelievable as the sub. But just the ability to keep his feet. I love what Amira does here. He keeps his width. So if he is to suck into the contest, he doesn't become a handball option. He just holds his width. He knows that there's two players there, two teammates that can go for the ball. He just holds his width. Really smart, and then he's able to kick that goal. So really good. I love how they come back to the corridor. Really important that Johnson's able to turn and come back through the corridor. This is second and third efforts, and then it comes back into the corridor, and this is where Jaya Miss is able to take the mark outside the goal square. Takes it about here. But just watch the effort from Josh Tracy, the second and third effort. So he contests this mark. Once again, you can see where the direction of their ball inside forward 50 and the ability to come through the corridor. So this is Tracy here. The ball comes in, spoil, he's off. You can see him just there. You watch him just here. Head down. Doesn't win and then when the ball comes, just watch him go. Look at that, head down. And then this is really good balance here. I think it's pointing here. Sikowski is just pointing. So the reason why he's doing that, because he knows that that Nick Dacos is off, so he has to get on goal side. So really good. So then by him doing this creates an opportunity for Josh Tracy to create a one-on-one, but also not a handball release for side bottom to hit over to Nick Dacos. So he creates that. Look at the effort. So he's not overcommitting, but commits when he needs to. Now Sikowski comes off. I think it's Sikowski. Comes off. Ball's in dispute. So really good to come. And then there's the ability to just to hunt the ball. Just really important to hunt the ball. So there's a turnover, and sides love to get turnovers between the arcs. So between the arcs means between the 50s. Ball still in dispute. This is very important. And this is why this guy was so good. It's great to have him back for Freo, but how clean he was and the ability to know and watch this below his knees, one touch, bang, raise his arms, and look at that hand pass. Unreal. The ability not only to win the contest, but also to get his hands free and hand pass it out. But then I love this. Sikowski back into the corridor. Very important. This is what they did from the 13-minute mark of the last quarter when they hadn't had a touch. They then started to own, not panic, but create opportunities through the corridor. And then this is a great kick. Look at that. And by going through the middle, they're able to and get numbers into the middle. They're able to create these opportunities. And they played on fast. And then Darcy gets around his left foot, gets on his left foot, and there's a mark in front and kick a goal. So Mychek wins the ball here, and they're going. And what they try to do, Collingwood, when Mychek's up here, and this is what I'll show you also what Freo do as well, is that when Mychek's up, they like to get Darcy Cameron to push to be the long down the line. So he's the tall in the forward line, but he's up the ground. So they like to try and do so this is Darcy Cameron now pushing. And there was moments through the game where Sean Darcy, you would say, let Darcy Cameron mark the contested mark. So really important to get back. So once Darcy Cameron's back, that's when Mychek pulls the trigger to kick down the line. But good body work here by Sean Darcy to allow McDonald to come off and mark it. So really good. Well, ability to run back and put some body pressure on and create not only them to mark it, but also to bring it to ground if they need to. And now that Darcy's here, this is where I think he's just in. I'll just try and. This is where Luke Jackson. So now it's a flip side. I think it's just here. Now he needs to push down to be the long down the line. So if Darcy's involved here, now they need to push. And it sort of works in tandem. So there he is there. He's working down. Now he's working the position to be the long down the line. So Jackson works down the line. So he's seen that Sean Darcy's there. Now he's got to push. He's got to be down the line as another kick option. Ball hits the ground. What about this pickup? Awesome for a 6'6". Over to once again Josh Tracy coming up. They win the ball, and then they kick it in, and Voss takes the mark and kicks a goal. So really well organised. So you've got to, get back, be structured, compete at that contest, and then have the other tall, Josh Tracy, and also Luke Jackson up the other end for the long kick down the line. So good balance there from Freo. So Collingwood are going left the screen. It's a hurried kick inside their forward 50, and just a great mark here by Ryan, just to stop the momentum. He was actually the one that kicked it in, and then for him to press up and be there to get the intercept mark was really outstanding. So they play on really quick. So they're going. They want to go. They want to get the momentum going. But they don't want to go wide. They want to come through the corridor. So really good kick here. What I want to highlight is Reid. Him just running past at the moment. Yep, just here. So Reid, this is awesome. This is where he ends up in the interchange bench. But it just shows you the work rate. So here he is here working, and then he's working into space. So Frederick gets the ball. You can see that he's leading into space. They don't want to go wide. They just didn't want to go wide. They wanted to be able to maximise through the corridor. So good little dinky kick. Good mark going back with the flight of the ball. And then he plays on. So when you play on through the arcs, you create movement up ahead. And it puts the defence off balance because then they have to switch really quick. They don't have time to set up. So I love what he tries to do here. So clever, so creative. You can see that there's space. I love what he tries to do here for Brayshaw. Little dinky kick off line. Look at that. But well read by Maynard. So the ability to cut the angles here from Collingwood, but also to them to understand where the space is. But I love the Reid looking for that. They're trying to own that corridor. But now there's a turnover. Watch Reid. So now he's turned over. Work rate. Back again. This is where you got to be attack, defence. Got to go back and forth. He takes off. Still chasing. Forces them to hand pass back. There's 2-on-2. Goes back to Maynard. Maynard goes in his left foot. Guess who smothers it? Reid. Great work. Just second and third efforts to stay in the contest. And then we know what happens here. He gets pushed into the... But what about that effort? The ability to then try and set up for scoreboard, score assist, but then they also realise that it's a turnover now to go back and try and defend. So really awesome play. So Freya's going top of screen. I love how... This is the Luke Jackson goal. So I love how they do this. So there's a lot of numbers in the corridor here. And there's only one pair out, and then there's one free. So they hit this up. But this is a well set up to get this corridor, to be brave, to go through the corridor, and I'll show you how this unfolds. So they chip here. But what this player here, this Freo player, identifies is that Young is possibly free, but he's got a man on him. So one of the things you've got to understand is you've got to turn your head and realise that you've got someone. Watch how hard this Freo player runs to drag this Collingwood player out to allow then Young to come into the space. So just watch this section here. Pulls the trigger. Look where that player ended up, and look at the space created for Young to go into that. So really good set play, but it's the ability to turn your head. Notice that that's unrewarded running. No doubt this week, when Freo do their meeting, they will highlight that. The ability to unrewarded running, get out of the space, but identify that your teammate's free. And then, this is Luke Jackson here. So the ability to understand that, hey, he's a left footer, he's free, go. So take a risk and run really hard forward. And he ends up getting on goal side of his opponent and takes the mark and kicks the goal. So, but what I loved about that play is that unrewarded running from that Freo player in the middle when they've got an opponent on them to get out and create the space for Young to come into that space. I love that play. I just want to share a couple of 1%ers. So this is from Reid. This is well done. So he's in the play here. He's involved. But watch what he does here to get Pendlebury holding the ball. So the ball drops. He runs over it. But what he does here, he just holds and waits. Most of the players these days, they anticipate the tackle and they get their arms free. But watch what Reid does here. He knows that Pendlebury's going to lift his arms. No, and then he just hovers for that split second. He knows he's going to lift his arms, and then he grabs him. So it doesn't go in too early. He anticipates that he knows that the player's going to lift, Pendlebury's going to lift his arms, and then he nails the tackle. So really good play, good 1%er. Now this is the 1%er of the play in that last quarter for me. There's other plays that were. This is the one for me because when Collingwood's in a position where they need to win the game, they love to come through the corridor, and you've seen it many times where they're trying to hit this point of the square going forward. Where Luke Jackson stands for Maynard as a left footer is outstanding, and this is what it's stand in the mark to stay in the game, but to understand what type of kick the player is that's got the ball. So he stands inside. So basically what he's doing is he's saying to Maynard, you can kick it that way. I don't want you to come across your body and kick it that way. Because if say Luke Jackson stands here, Maynard goes back and he can kick that way aggressively. But because he stands there, he almost cuts that angle off for Maynard to kick. So Maynard then is forced to go this way. And then see what unfolds in this situation. So Maynard goes. Right, so he's forced to go along the boundary line. There he goes. And you watch what Maynard tries to do. He's trying to hook it this way. But this is where Luke Jackson, without overcommitting, understands this. Watch Maynard trying to flick his leg across his body. Look at that. But then Luke Jackson gets a smother. So awesome work. 1, to stand on the mark and cover the corridor, but 2, force him wide and then be able to smother his kick across, and that forces a stop play and a boundary throw. That is awesome work. Love it. Okay, so Freo have it deep inside Collingwood's forward 50. Kick it down as a contest. So Luke Jackson makes a great contest, but then Collingwood win the ball back. What I want to highlight here is the pressure from behind, from Bolton. So he takes off, realises that there's a switch of play here happening. All the numbers are here. So what Collingwood's trying to do is switch the play and come out the open side. But look at Bolton. So he comes off. So it probably would have been a Collingwood player that way to erase that. But then once he identifies that this is the player that Pendlebury's going to, he closes the gap, forces a turnover. But look at him here now. Bang. Right, force a turnover, take a risk. If we win the ball and go forward, I'm a big chance here. So they take off through the corridor. They've got numbers. Bolton. Look how much distance he's gone from making that contest in the middle. Handball over. Too high. Free kick. Ends up kicking the point that eventually wins the game for him. So that second and third effort's ability to squash up, create a turnover, and then go back really hard the other way. And this is the last play. This is the one where Josh Tracy marks it. Just watch the work rate of Freo, and both sides just going at it. So a lot of one-on-one contests. They're going for it. They're trying to tap it on. As you can see here, they're trying to hit it forward. It's in chaos mode. Hit it over the back. Push it forward. There it is. My check once again hits it out. Just creating the numbers, but at the end of the day, you still got to play in front. And that's what he does here. Great work by Josh Tracy. And the other important part about this too is to get back deep. They quite often use him to go back deep when they're in front, or when they want to close out each of the quarters. It's not only just the game, but also close out the quarters and hold it up. And a great ability just to mark it and close the game. So there you have it. So what I loved about Freo's last quarter is they're all on the same page. They could have easily, with the crowd at the MCG playing Collingwood, only had 2 possession between the whole entire team 4.5 minutes into the last quarter. They could have easily rolled over, but they stuck to their guns. They had a game plan in mind to come through the corridor, get numbers of the contest, win the ball, 1%ers, but they were all on the same page. That's what I took from the game. It's an outstanding win by Freo, this close to the end of the season, going to the finals, and they just were well organised and structured. And normally it's the other way around. Normally it's Collingwood winning those close ones, but it was great to see that Freo was able to get the 4 points.